Okay, we're fully recording. Hello, everyone. This is Carol Sankar. Welcome to the Confidence Club for Women in Leadership. I am so excited to have this young lady on with us today, Miss Jessica Ma. I've been following her story since I saw her in the Inc. 5000, and it's been remarkable to actually connect with a woman who is under 30 and really doing and living life on purpose with actual intention and design. So just to give you a little bit of background about Jessica, she's the CEO of InDinero, which is and she's an Inc. 5000 entrepreneur with over 200 employees. And at 26, she was named one of the youngest CEOs in Silicon Valley and listed in the Forbes 30 under 30. Jessica, how are you?
Hey, I'm great. Thanks for having me here.
I'm honored that you are going to spend a few minutes with us. So I'm just honored to have you in this space that we have kind of created for our women, and so that you can be able to kind of share your journey and what leadership really looks like for you. But the first question I always ask everybody before we get started is, can you tell everyone who you are, and I guess in your own words?
Sure. So I'm Jessica, founder and CEO of InDinero, and I've been a lifelong entrepreneur. Got started, I think, in elementary school with my first business. I was selling drawings on the playground, and so I've always been into doing my own business. Never could have imagined working for someone else before. And, I love helping other entrepreneurs and other business owners, and that's a big part of what InDinero is about. I mean, we're helping businesses with all their accounting and taxes, and I had that problem when I was doing some of my earlier businesses, and I thought it'd be great to work on that and help other people out.
Wow, that's awesome. Let me ask you, what was your defining moment? Like, even though you've been a lifelong entrepreneur since you were a kid, like, what was your defining moment that made you know that I want to actually go forward and be successful on my own terms? What was the defining moment for you?
I think just seeing my mom come home from work one day. She runs her own business too. She's in the apparel clothing business. And she'd talk about business challenges at the dinner table pretty much all the time when I was a kid. And I thought, wow, I want to be like that. I want to be able to think about how to get into business and have a team of awesome team members and be working on something I'm really passionate about. So I saw that, and I was pretty set on doing it myself.
Wow. Actually, that's so strange. Sometimes we don't even realize that our biggest influences are the people who we saw around us, whether we saw their struggle or we saw their success. Somehow, we're watching and we don't even realize it. Because it's interesting you say your mother, because I always say that the problem that I had was that even though I tried not to be like my mother, I ended up being just like my mother. My mother was an executive in Wall Street, and I kept saying, I am not going to go into leadership. I'm not. My mother looks like she's had it at the end of the day, and I'm not doing it. And guess what? I lost right into that, not knowing that sometimes the people who are at your dining room table have the biggest influence in the way you either do something or avoid what they do to do something else. So that's completely interesting to me. What would you say? What would you say that the key steps were that guided you into? And let's even just take InDinero for example. What were the key steps that guided you into founding such a company and really kind of growing it to the level where it is now, and raising capital and really growing it as the company that you own today? What do you think are the key steps, if you can identify maybe 2 or 3?
Sure. I think when I first got started with it, I really wanted to have a group of mentors to really support me and to have my back and to help me figure out what I didn't know. And I was at UC Berkeley at the time studying computer science, and they had so many great entrepreneurial resources there. I was able to meet alumni who had gone on to start very successful, huge companies that would go public and sell for boatloads of money. And I just asked them about, hey, how did you get started? How did you build your first team? How did you build your first product? What was that evolution like? And I just got coffee meetings with probably 30, 40, 50 other entrepreneurs who've been successful just to kind of get jazzed up and excited. So that was a big piece. I'd say having other friends going through the journey too was super helpful. So I started making friends with other people who were just in the super early stage of getting their idea put together, building that first business plan. And I just love having that support network, the group of other people to kind of commiserate with. And through talking to a lot of those people, I got great ideas for how I could move my business forward. They'd say, hey, Jessica, you should look into this grant program, or you should talk to this investor, or I had friends who helped me with media contacts. Hey, Jessica, you should meet this reporter at this publication, and they'll help get you on the map. And so just hanging out with all these other entrepreneurs, I think was really the catalyst for getting me into this, which sounds pretty straightforward and it isn't that hard to do, but I still spend a huge chunk of my time networking around. Like all day, Monday and Friday is for me to meet with other people outside of my company. So that's 2 out of 5 days during the work week that I'm still doing this today. So I think that's immensely valuable.
You know what? As we've been doing the series, without even asking anybody who's in the series, like we've interviewed over 15 women so far. It seems like no matter how I ask that question, I always end up hearing something very similar. And there are 3 points you just touched on: coaching or mentoring in some sort, having the right inner circle, and having people to go to as your go-to people that can be able to kind of be in your support network. Every woman has said that. And then the last thing you said that kind of had an additive to it that I haven't heard yet is that you never stop networking. So in other words, how I take it is you never stop learning, and you have and always have had the right people in your network. How do you feel, or what do you feel has been the biggest help as far as a growth module for you? Do you think it's the consistency in learning and applying it, or do you think it's always having great mentors behind you?
Well, so first off, with having great mentors behind you, that is always changing. So you can't just do it once. And I did mention that it's ongoing, but I also want to add to that and say that as my business has grown, I've had to upgrade my base of mentors because now we have like 200 employees. So now I want to network with people who have hired thousands of employees. Whereas when I was just getting started, my mentors had only 20 or 30 employees. So you don't want mentors who are too far ahead of you, but they got to be a little bit ahead of you. So that's a big, big piece to that. And I'd say that even though I have a business that seems semi-established, I still feel like a beginner. I still have the same fears and anxieties and insecurities that I had when I just got started. I don't think that ever really goes away. And I remember in the early days thinking, wow, I'll totally get over this in a year from now once X, Y, and Z events happen. Like once I get my revenue above 100 grand and I get my first 5 employees, then all my problems will be solved, was kind of my attitude. And now I'm thinking, and I still think, oh man, like life will be so much better once I hire this person or that person or solve that problem. But then new problems pop up. So I've never had that satisfaction of thinking I'm actually accomplished. I don't know if that will ever come, but I'm comfortable with that now.
It never does. Actually, I feel your pain. It never. It's like the more you grow, the more you want to grow, and it's like it never ends. And I love the fact that you said you have to get mentors who are ahead of you, and you're going to outgrow your mentors. Because one of the problems that we've had when we first developed the confidence factor is a lot of the women who initially started with our study, a lot of the women kept the same mentors year after year after year, even when they had outgrown the mentor, only because there was more familiarity with that person. And so when we were developing the study, one of the questions that we were developing time and time again was, but you've outgrown the person that is showing you how to be at this level. And it was because, oh, she's been to my house, or she needs my kids, or she knew this, or she knew that. And I'm like, okay, but you have to consistently grow, and growth never stops. And I love the fact that you have acknowledged that growth never stops, and that you still don't feel that you're at a level of success by definition. Like, you haven't like pinnacles and said, "Oh, I'm done. Thank you. I'm done. I've raised a few $1 million and I'm done." You know, you didn't do that, and so that's imperative, because sometimes when I was coaching more women on a one-on-one basis, they'd feel like, just like you said, well, how do I make $250,000? All of my problems will be over. And I'm like, then you're going to have a new $250,000 for the problem. It doesn't stop once you get the money. It actually just continues to get bigger. So I love the fact that you have acknowledged that. I would say, what would you think, or what would you consider as being a woman in Silicon Valley who have been some of your roadblocks? Because I know that's a unique composition in itself. So what do you think are some of the roadblocks of you being a woman in Silicon Valley as one of the youngest CEOs in Silicon Valley?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And I don't think I run into too many roadblocks here directly, because I really believe in something called unapologetic confidence. So that means that I don't really care what other people think about me. I don't really care about how people judge me. That's completely their problem, not mine. And I know that there's probably some age bias and gender bias. Oh man, she's too young, and you know, what does she know about running a business? When I pitch investors or talk to other notable people. But I think I've actually made this a real positive. I have so many people who want to mentor me and want to support me and want to see me win, that I've actually used this kind of to my benefit. And if I were like an older white guy, I don't think I'd get the same support network at all. Like, I might get other benefits, but so I really had a great attitude about it. And I think just having that great attitude makes this be like not a problem at all. And I have investors and other mentors who ask me about that. Hey, has this been a problem for you? And I just tell them about how it hasn't been a problem, and that in a way makes them want to work with me even more, because they think, all right, cool, she doesn't have a chip on her shoulder. She's been able to get through this and not worry about it, not think about it. So I think the biggest challenge really is just making sure it doesn't bother me in the first place, and not letting those demons get into my head, basically. And I've been pretty good at fending that off.
I love it. I love the fact that you said unapologetic confidence, because, you know, sometimes as being a minority, you start thinking, well, okay, well, should I go in? Can I go in? I don't know. Is the door open for me? I'm not sure. And then you start realizing you're starting to care about other people's opinions, until you realize I'm of value and I'm meant to be there. So that's why I love the fact that you said that, because when you believe in you, people invest in you, as opposed to when you don't believe in yourself. Somehow or another, you start having an adverse reaction to people who want to align themselves with you, but you kind of look fearful. So I love the fact that you have unapologetic confidence. Like, yay, thank you.
Thanks. I mean, I don't have it all the time, to be clear. I definitely have my moments where I'm thinking, oh gosh, I'm really not good enough, and I'm really feeling at my job. I have that too. So, but I just don't dwell on it for very long. I don't sit in that feeling for more than a few minutes, and then I'll just shake it off, or I'll just do a meditation activity. And I'm really big into meditation. That's been super fun for me, and has helped me change my focus area when I'm not thinking about the right things. And also when I worry about whether I'm succeeding or not, that makes me think about how I'm just kind of egotistical in a way. Like, maybe I put too much regard into like how I'm perceived by others. And if I just care less about that, if I'm less results oriented and more improvement oriented, then I'll be a lot happier. So what if I don't win, or I close that deal, or hire that team member, or get that investor to come in? Well, at least I learned something, and at least I left the day better than I was the day before. And that mindset's helped me get through a lot of my challenges.
Wow. What makes you so humble?
I don't think I'm super humble, to be honest. I think,
Really?
I think
I think you
in
are.
my head, I am.
Mhm.
It's a weird balance because when you're talking about yourself to the media, you want to be humble, but you want to brag. When you're talking to investors,
Right.
you want to kind of show off all the good stuff about who you are.
Mhm.
And I really struggled to balance that. My mom thinks I'm really arrogant, by the way. She always yells at me for it. And like, Jessica, you're so arrogant. Like, I can't believe I raised you this way. Who you are. Uh, so I'm like scared to say anything good to her now. But she's
Mhm.
hilarious. She'll like see my magazine covers and
Mhm.
whatnot, and be happy about it in private, but she won't tell me.
I know
um,
this. Trust me, I have the same mother, and I think sometimes it's, I blame that on the immigrant parents. Like my
yeah,
mother
that's totally
is,
immigrant mentality.
yeah, the immigrant parenthood is something totally different. They come with so much humility, and so they want you to be modest, and they don't want you to. They want you to be successful, but not to the point where you are the American arrogance. Like my mother always reminds you, don't get that way. I don't want you to be out there letting. I'm like, please, like, please, because I'm like, I'm in America now. I know that that was then, but we left and we're in America now. And yeah, I want to wear a pink outfit to the car. Like, don't do that. People are going to see you. What are they going to think? And I'm like, oh Lord, typical immigrant mom.
Hey, it's a good thing though.
Yeah.
I love having the immigrant parents there, and it's great because they, like, my parents came here with very little money, and they
Yeah.
always remind me, hey, Jessica, doesn't matter how good or bad you are at business, you're healthy,
Mhm.
you're alive and doing relatively well. So just don't worry too much about it. Don't sweat the small things, I guess, is what I hear a lot. And I think that
Mm.
keeps me humble. That makes me realize how great things really are for us.
I mean, I don't see you as arrogant. I definitely don't. I see you as confident. And I think that sometimes as women, we mislabel arrogance for confidence because a lot of times women who are not confident will read it as arrogance. And confident women kind of say, oh, you're humble by most standards, instead of being, oh, yes, and I have $20 million in my checking account, $80 million in my pocketbook. You're not, to me, it doesn't feel like that. Like, I feel like there's a sense of confidence, and I think that sometimes as women we mislabel confidence and arrogance. We kind of put them in different categories and we mix them up. And I think there's nothing wrong with a woman believing in herself because the market consistently deteriorates us, for having a little bit of confidence. Like I went to see Hillary Clinton just the other day. The conference factor was invited to one of her rallies, a private rally that she had. And I remember people saying, how dare you go and support her? She's this and she's that. I'm like, oh, she's just confident. Doesn't matter whether I'm voting for her or not. It matters the fact that she's a woman who can hold her own. And so the issue is our context of confidence always comes across as arrogance, but men don't have that issue because my husband is the most arrogant man I've ever met. And nobody says, your husband's ignorant. Nobody does that. Everybody's like, oh, your husband's such a nice guy. I'm like, my husband curses and carries on. He's loud and ignorant, but you love him. You think he's awesome. But if I did the same thing, I would be arrogant. I'd be the B word. I'd be a whole bunch of things. And I think sometimes we have to be very careful that we don't misinterpret our confidence for arrogance. Now, I don't see it. Maybe it's just, how you may feel, but I don't see it as arrogance.
Thanks.
I guess I want to wrap this up by asking you, very simply, like, what do you want people to take away about Jessica, the real Jessica, not just the CEO, but the Jessica of today, how she's evolved from who she was to the woman that she's become and the successful powerhouse that she's growing into? What do you want people to remember about you? And I say this in two forms. What do you want my audience to know about you? And I want to give you this as something to think about. What do you want your legacy to be? What do you want Jessica's legacy to be?
Good question. Let's see. Well, I think like I want to share just the personal thing first, and then I'll go into the legacy question second.
Mm-hmm.
So the first thing is, for some reason, a lot of people see me as being super intense and hard driving, and will do whatever it takes to win, and that's true on one hand. But I spend so much time on the weekends just hanging out with my girlfriends and just chilling and really investing in that because it makes me a better entrepreneur during the week. So a lot of my closest girlfriends are running their own businesses too. And we commiserate with each other, we share notes with each other, and having that work-life integration for me has been just so powerful. So I don't work all the time directly on business, but I definitely think it's so important to still invest in those relationships, even when your business is going through tough times, and probably even more so when your business is going through tough times. So I'd say that's the first thing, super focused on friends and being there with them. And on the legacy note, I really love the mission where we have it in InDinero, which is to help other small businesses and entrepreneurs grow bigger and better businesses. And I think that's going to be the first of many things I'm going to do, but I'm already thinking about a few other great ideas. Like I'm working on starting something called the Millionaires Pledge with some other friends I had in Silicon Valley, where we're going to, like, basically what Bill Gates and Warren Buffett have done with the Billionaires Pledge, getting you to try to give all your wealth away. We're trying to get that for people who have even a 10 million or 50 million or $100 million net worth. How do we help even millionaires think more about giving their money away? And so I'm starting to work on that with some friends, and I've got some other businesses I'm going to start picking up over the next few years to actually make a big dent in the world. And I'm excited about that.
Wow, that's awesome. I love the fact that you're thinking about stretching yourself a lot more instead of thinking how to consistently grow. Because one thing you didn't say is you didn't say that you were going to continue to grow InDinero. I don't know if that means that you're thinking long term as far as scale and value, and I'll leave that completely up to you, but you're talking about leaving influence in the world, and that's a huge thing that we are always trying to tell women to do, is build a business, scale it. If you want to sell it, but build more of an influence, because you will be able to impact more lives with influence than you will with money. Sometimes impact and influence are not exactly the same. And that was the reason why I asked you about the legacy, because sometimes the only legacy we think of is how much more money, how much more money, how much more money. I'm like, okay, yeah, at some point, the money is not going to be the impact. The impact is going to be the legacy you leave. So.
Yeah, exactly. I kind of see InDinero as a vehicle for meeting other incredibly smart, passionate, world-changing type of minds, and it'll kind of unlock those doors for me to start making an impact, even if I don't make a penny out of InDinero, which I think I will make a few pennies out of InDinero, but
yeah, you will.
But it's not the focal point. It's I kind of see InDinero as a PhD in business and leadership and in influencing others, and it's going to help me make a bigger impact with all the other stuff that I'll eventually do. And I think you make a good point there. Like, your business, your money isn't everything. You still have to think about other ways to influence others and make a bigger dent in the world. So that's great.
Because we need more women like you in the world. It's imperative. We're losing the leadership structure, and I think women have to think of themselves as legacies, not necessarily as ladies. Sometimes it's great, we got all the girl stuff, and I'm cool with that. But it's like, okay, so what's the mark you're leaving? Like, I think the woman that left the biggest mark on me, and probably because I studied her work the most, is Prime Minister Thatcher. And, how she was just relentless. She was brutal, but she was relentless, but she was charming if you'd ever met her in person. And so her impact, in her day, she was the B word, but in her death, she's remembered for being highly impactful, and she didn't take her money and misuse it for buying a $8,000 purse per se. She used her influence and her money to be able to buy a larger part of the influence in the world. So it's just that we now remember her as Margaret Thatcher. It's just a different way of remembering her. So I always say, how do you want Jessica Ma to be remembered? And I'm not wishing you dead. You're not going to die on me right now. But it's just, I always think about what's your legacy going to look like. So I'm honored that you have given me a few minutes of your time. I respect your time greatly. I'm honored that you're in our space. If there's any way we can support you, we're always honored to. So if there's anything that we can do for you in any way, never hesitate to let us know. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. This has been super fun.